Hello, this video is about the academic money purchase plan at the University of Saskatchewan. And this is specifically for professors. I know there's other people in the plan and some of the information will translate across to those, but this is mainly for those that are with the plan in an academic nature. Okay, first of all, right out of the bat, the pension that you have at the university is a good pension. So they match what you put in. So you put in 8.5% of your salary and they match that. That's a total of 17% of the 18% that the government gives you in order to save for retirement. That's awesome. One thing to note, however, is that it is not the full 18%. So that does mean you have 1%. And a lot of people like to use that up as soon as they get it. And I understand the draw in that, but for a lot of you, you'll be taking consulting gigs throughout your career. And oftentimes that will put you into the next salary bracket. And maybe during those times, you'll wish you kept and saved that 1%. Another thing that some people may not know about the pension is that you actually have quite a few options and you can change these options. You're not stuck in what they originally give you. And later on in the video, we'll look at a few of those options. But I want you to understand that sometimes changing these options can drastically change the outcome of your retirement. Whether that's when you're closer to retirement, reducing risk, or when you're further away from retirement, increasing risk. So as you can see, you have 8 options for your retirement plan. First of all, you have a money market fund. That's about as low risk as it goes. It's going to offer a very low rate of return, but for as much safety as possible. Second of all, you have the bond fund. So in the bond fund, it's going to be 100% bonds. And again, in the current environment, that's also going to be pretty low return. But that comes along with very low volatility or risk. The third option, now we get into the portfolio options, is the conservative portfolio. So this is often used during retirement for some people. It's often used for people with a very low risk tolerance. And it's really important to understand when you're making decisions what your risk tolerance is and what risk even means. And then we move on to the balanced fund. So the balanced fund is the default option if you make no other choices with your pension. It's going to have about 60% stocks in it, about 40% bonds. And that can be good and bad depending on who you are and the circumstances that you find yourself in. And then we move on to the aggressive portfolio option. So this is going to be about 70% stocks and about 30% bonds. So not too much of a difference to the balanced portfolio. The main difference, or the conservative portfolio, the main difference is the amount of stocks that are in that portfolio. And stocks are normally the part of that portfolio that grows. So very likely, the longer you have until retirement, the more stocks that you'll want in your portfolio. Then we get into the specific sleeves of equity type funds. So first of all, we have the Canadian Equity Fund. And this is a managed mandate, which means that there is a portfolio manager on the other end analyzing companies and picking the best companies that they feel in Canada to invest in to give you the best growth. Then we have the US equities. Now this is not a managed mandate. This one is an index fund. So it invests in some of the largest companies in the US and it's weighted based on how big these companies are. So you guessed it, on the top of that list right now, you're going to see the FANG companies. You're going to see Apple, Google, Netflix, Facebook, because they're the biggest companies in the US and in the world. Then we have the international or global equities. So this is also a managed mandate. The fund manager behind this is one that I'm very familiar with. And they're going to pick the best companies that they feel from around the world to invest in. So it's not just US or Canada. You'll see some companies from Europe. You'll see some companies from Asia. You'll see some companies from South Korea. From all over the world, they can pick any of these companies to invest in. Along the left-hand side of this graph, you'll see that it says return. So the money market being the lowest expected return and the equity-only pieces being the highest expected return. And I want to say expected, for instance, the Canadian equities haven't done as well as the US equities have. But that could change in any given year. And then on the bottom, we see the risk. So we see from low to high. And I want to be very clear of what it's talking about when it's talking about risk here. And it's not absolute risk of you losing your money. When it's talking about risk, it's talking about volatility. So how much said investment will likely go up or down in a given year. So for example, if you had $100 and there was the chance of it going down to $99 or up to $101, that could be considered low volatility or low risk. If on the other hand, you had $100 and it had a chance to go down to $80 or up to $120, that would be considered high volatility or high risk. That doesn't mean that one or the other has a higher or lower chance of going to zero. What it means is that throughout any given year, there's a higher or lower chance of that number going up to 120 or down to 80 versus up to 101 or down to 99. So this next one is actually in an annual newsletter that you guys will get from your pension. The vast majority of you will not read it, and that's okay. Obviously, I read this type of stuff. It interests me. But this is a graph showing how the members within this pension plan, so how you guys use the investment options. So we just went over all of them. You saw the differences. But you'll see here that the clear winner is the balanced life cycle fund. Why? Well, it's the default option. So if you don't do anything, that's where your money goes. So what does this tell me? Well, this tells me a few things. The people that are invested in this fund, some of them might very well be where they should be. A good chunk of them, though, just didn't make a decision. Another chunk of them maybe just don't understand enough to, maybe they want to make a decision, but they just, better to leave it. That would be the safest option. And it's important to know here that not making a decision is still a decision. That decision of just going the balanced fund could mean that you don't get to retire on time. It could mean that a market crash happens and suddenly your whole pension's wiped out and you have to delay retirement for a few years. Like, not making a decision is still a decision. And I can't stress that enough. And finally, I wanted to touch on another part. If anything that we looked at today, maybe you eyes glazed over and it wasn't for you, it is still important that you look at this part of your life. And if you don't feel confident doing it yourself, you can hire somebody. There's plenty of financial planners that offer hourly services like myself that will go through this, and you'll get peace of mind that comes with a professional taking a look at this, recommending an asset mix, recommending where you should be. That type of decision can be hundreds of thousands of dollars when it comes to retirement. And you want to make sure that you're making the right decision, not only for you, but for those that rely on you and your families. As always, thanks for watching. If you are a professor and you're wondering, am I in the right place for my pension currently? Always feel free to reach out to me. You can either email me or reach me through my website, and we can have a 15-minute conversation and see what's going on.